Okay, so now let's start to pull all of these things together. Let's click off this flower and visualize this. So let's generate a set of controls so that we're able to really easily manipulate the so that we're able to change the components. We're able to change the shape and able to change the parameters so that we're able to generate a bunch of different models from this. So I'm going to go ahead and create a null context in my object, a null object in my object context. And then I'm going to go up here to my parameter interface. And this is how I'm going to generate a set of controls. So I can change which parameters I have visible here for this null controller. And so first in the parameter interface, I'm going to go in and I'm going to just make invisible these 3 folders. And I'm going to hit apply. And now I have like a blank parameter interface here. And then I'm going to add an integer here. And so this will be my leaf number. So the number of leaves, I'm going to copy this label here. I can also say, how many I want, my range. So I want to start with how many leaves. I'm going to say anywhere between 3 and 30 and hit apply. So now I have this little sliding scale here, but it's not doing anything. And so this is where procedural stuff in Houdini becomes really powerful, is I can actually copy this parameter and then I can paste this value somewhere in my context here, somewhere in my my networks. So let's go down to this plant. So I copied that parameter, and here under scatter and align, right? This is the number of points. I'm going to go ahead and right click over total points and say paste relative references. So now at this level, at my objects level, I can change the number of the leaves of this particular plant. Okay, let's do something else. Let's go in and say edit parameter interface, and let's add let's add a float. And this float is going to be called leaf size. And I'm going to copy this. And then again, I'm going to give it a range. I'm going to say between 0.5 and 5 and say accept, apply. So now I have another, this is a float value, so it's going to give me decimals, not just integers, not whole numbers here. And so with leaf size, again, let's copy this parameter and let's dive into my plant2 context. And then under the transform node here for the scale, now I have this scaled here. I'm going to change this, I'm going to paste this under the uniform scale, paste relative references. So now back at my object context here, I can change the size of these leaves. And let's also go in and give another parameter here, edit parameter interface. Let's go and add another float. And this float is going to be called stem flower, or let's call it flower height. And give it a range. We'll say anywhere from 1 to 10, sure, or 1 to 5, 1 to 8. We can go back in and always change these values after if we just go to edit parameter interface. So let's say, okay, apply, cancel. And now, oh, and that didn't save that edit parameter interface. This one, flower height, let's copy and paste the label flower height. I do have my range there, apply. And now I have this flower height. I can right click, copy parameter, dive into flower context, and let's find our line. And let's see, I think we would like that under the transform value here. So let's paste uniform scale, paste relative references into this. And make sure I'm flagging my out. Okay, so now this is not really the right place to put that. So let's undo. Let's create another Actually, it looks like our height, well, is going to be here under our transform here. Let's see. Yeah, object merge in the transform. So here we'll paste that into this, paste relative references here. So then we'll come back down to our merge. Let's actually disconnect here. If I right click over it, I'm able to disconnect. Let's make this the out now. Go back up to this context and I can change the flower height. That's actually changing the entire size of the flower. So I'd have to do some different things in order to change like just the height of the stem, but I think this is going to work for us for now. I can also change like the number of petals and then create a controller for that. Okay, so I still have plant 1 that I haven't done anything with. I'm going to get rid of this this transform here, or I'm going to just change this back to 1. So I have a second plant. So now let's generate a kind of landscape with all of this. This is all for plant 1, so I'm just going to call this plant 1 controls. Okay, so I know that those are the plant controls, or I can add everything to this one controller. Maybe that's going to be easier. So we'll just leave this controls here down. I can also color code things by clicking here and just so I can find, you know, these are my controls. So I'm going to make them red so I know that's what I'm controlling. And then anything like this, I'm not going to use it. Maybe I'll like gray it out. Okay, so this isn't one of my main nodes. These two are. So let's go ahead and create a new geometry context. And in here, I'm going to call this one landscape. And under landscape, let's add a grid to start. And let's turn off this visibility. So we're just looking at landscape in our scene. Let's change the size of it. Let's make it 100 by 100. And the size is going to be 100 by 100. Now let's do this like 50 by 50. 100 by 100. It's probably easier if I turn on smooth wire shaded here. And then I'm going to add something like a mountain node. And a mountain's just like a point jitter, except it's for primitives and not for points. It's still for points. However, I can, it's going to allow me to generate a kind of mountainous, it's like just another kind of jitter with some different parameters here. So I can increase and then I can kind of relax the, how, you know, what, so this is basically a noise node, you know, so the noise type is simplex. And then maybe I'll add a smooth here. Okay, so now I have a nice kind of terrain. And now let's add another scatter and align. So this will be, we'll scatter and align along, and wrong, this is the wrong input. I need to input it here, scatter surface. And then again, I'm going to do my number of points. I just find this is the best way to really have control over how many points I'm adding. Maybe even 15 is a good one to start with. And now let's go ahead and use another object merge, and let's bring in these other objects into our scene. So we have plant 1 and plant 2. So I'm going to hit plant 2, for instance, and then I have my plant 2 is in the scene. And now I can scatter, and I can scatter to these, I can copy to those scatter points. And now remember, with scatter and align, we want to turn off p-scale. And then I'll add a merge node. And let's merge both the mountain under smooth with the copy to points. And now I have both my landscape and my, my objects. So the other thing I'm going to want to do under my scatter and align is under orientation, I'm going to change the orientation so that it from 0 to 360, it's kind of random. I also will add a transform node. And with this transform node, I'm just going to change the scale to 0.5 so that that looks a little bit better. Okay, so now that's scattering just one type of object across the landscape. Let's say I want to bring in both of those plants. So what I'll do is I'll add another object merge. And let's find plant 1. So plant 1 now, let's flag that. And there it is. This is just a plant without a flower. And now what I'm going to do so that I'm able to randomly copy these to points, I'm going to need to put in a merge node. So I'm going to want to merge these two, and let's disconnect this for a moment. And after my merge node, I'm going to put in an assemble node. And this will allow me to create this component or this parameter called a piece attribute. So what this is now saying is that both of these objects that are merged into this merge node, we're going to generate pieces from them. So I'm going to call these plants. And also at the merge level, this object merge, I'm going to pack geometry before merging. So I have these as objects that are packed, and now I have this assembled. So now under my scatter and align node here, and it's actually under the copy to points node, I'm going to want to add this piece attribute, and I named this piece attribute. Did I name it? Plants, yes, plants. So under copy to points, I want to add this to be plants. And then I also need to add a attribute from pieces node. So I'm going to start to type attribute from pieces. And I need to add this, I think, after my scatter and align. So here, and I need a point cloud. So the scatter and align and the assemble is going to plug into my attribute pieces. Okay, so the nodes that I've added now are this assemble node. Let me go to layout and say layout all select. Well, not yet. I'm going to add this attribute. I need to add it to this point cloud so it knows to copy, to basically select one of the pieces that's in this assemble node so that it knows to assign that to the points. So here under my attribute from pieces, I'm going to say piece attribute is also going to be called plants. And now I'm going to drop this in here, copy to points. And so now I have it randomly at different points. Let's go back to my merge node. So I have my landscape in as well. I have, if I go to copy to points and scatter and align and change the seed value here. So now it's randomly going to copy one of those types of plants to one of those points. And now I can go back, maybe do a transform node here. And I'm just going to scale down that second plant. And then the final thing that I'm going to do is just add a little color. Now this won't necessarily transfer out of Houdini, but it's fun to see. So I'm going to add a color node, and let's add a color to the grid. And I can generate this like as a kind of brown color. And now under let's add another color node. And I can add the color nodes here at the plant level. So jump into this plant. And let's add a color node before the out. And so we'll add color node. And we'll add that here. And then maybe the color of this plant can be this kind of green. Now we are able to also change like random. However, we're not able to, this is just giving random values. Maybe we'll do that for the flower. We'll just do a constant value here. And then we'll go to this second plant. Let's add a color node. Under the flower. Nope, let's add a color node here. Under this, yeah, these are the leaves, so I'll add a color node here. We'll do a kind of brighter green. And then let's jump into my flower network. We'll add a color for the stem. And we'll add a color node to the flower. And in this case, we'll do like a bounding box. It's nice, colorful flower at the top. Rainbow. We can do a random. Okay, that looks like a nice kind of random flower top, or we could just do a constant, and I'm going to change this maybe to pink. Yeah, that looks good. All right, so now back up to our main kind of, and we are missing something with plant 2. That's because we need to flag the out. And now back to my landscape. Let's turn off our grid, turn off to smooth shaded. And now let's also change where this, go into landscape. Let's change where this color node is applied. Let's shake it off and put it here at the bottom after we've copied to points, so that it's not influencing the color. All right, now I'm going to go back to my null, my controllers here. Let's turn off this. Let's go back to my controllers, and then I can add, this is just changing this. This is changing this value. Let's add some more controls here for how to generate the landscape. We can again go to my edit parameter interface. We will add another integer, and this I'm going to call number of plants. Let's copy the name to the label. Let's set a range, and let's say I want between 5 and 100 plants. Hit apply. And now I can copy this parameter, go into my landscape. Now, you can copy parameters and create controls for all sorts of things. You can create controls for the colors of these flowers. You can generate more object merges so that you can, and use this kind of assemble and pull them in to change like the variability of the colors of the flowers and the color of things. So this is kind of endlessly possible. For one more thing here, I'm just going to, on this scatter and align here, I'm going to paste under the total points that relative reference. Go back up to my control context and then number of plants here. And yeah, and I can just add many, many, many plants.